Hey guys, this is Silenceddeath from Airsoft Team OSMD, and hold up one second. Alright, sorry, just wanted to stop that fan from running. Basically I'm doing a video today on high caps versus mid caps. I've done my own research on this, and I have my own opinion based on using both of these, both high cap mags and mid cap mags. For the new player, high cap stands for high capacity, mid cap, medium or middle capacity. Then there's also real caps and gas blowback magazines that hold basically real capacity, what real steel guns will hold. But today I'm going to be talking about exclusively high caps versus mid caps for an M4 M16 platform. Going to go over the pros for each, the cons for each, and then just all this being facts and my own personal, don't want to say speculation, but my own personal experiences on each. I'm going to start off with the high cap. Here I have two high caps. One is a Elite Force, the one on the left is an Elite Force, the one on the right is a Spartan Imports magazine. The one on the left was, I believe, $12 maybe. The one on the right was $17, $18. The main pros for high cap mags is these particular mags hold between 300 rounds and 360 rounds. And as you all probably know, having 300 to 360 rounds per magazine is very good, because you don't have to carry a lot of magazines, because really who's going to go through more than 3 high caps in one game, unless you're just crazy shooting. Now, a benefit to having all those rounds obviously is sustained fire. You can keep shooting, not have to reload, you don't get caught on the reload as often, and you can just suppress the enemy a lot more. You can use shooting to your advantage a lot more when you have these. You don't have to always be worrying about how much ammo is in your mag, because if you carry 4 of these on your person, I mean, you have over 1,000 BBs to use per match, which is a definite plus. Another benefit is these magazines are almost always metal. Very rarely do you find, I mean, other than like P mags, you're not going to find, even like Chinese guns that ship with high cap mags, they're always metal, and it's a decent quality metal. I've actually fallen on these mags before and actually had the bottom bend in on my weight back when I was 175 pounds. It actually crimped in on the wheel. It took a needle nose pliers and I bent it out, and it worked just fine. I mean, you could literally run this over with like a truck and it would probably still function. They're extremely durable for very little cost. Like, I think I got this one for $13, and most guns that you buy nowadays come with one, and it's normally a pretty high quality magazine. So metal, very durable, which is a definite plus, and inexpensive, if I haven't said already. I mean, even I run exclusively the Spartan Imports magazines. You can tell on the bottom it says Spartan Imports. I forget the brand, but that's how they're labeled. They're very good. I highly recommend this one because it's cheap. I run 4 of these on me at one time, on my battle belt. Never had a misfeed, as long as it's maintained. I'll get to that later. But I would not recommend cheaping out and getting a $12, $13, $14 magazine. I would go for around $17 to $20 for a decent high cap, and it's going to perform just as good as a mid-cap will, but with more capacity. People tend to compare low quality high caps to something like this, which is a very high quality mag brand 190 round mid cap that's metal. But I digress. Another thing, benefit to high caps, they are very easy to maintain. First off, dirt rarely ever gets inside the magazine unless you open up the trap door where you pour the BBs in to load it. Unless you just put a handful of dirt in there, really, that should never come open. And if it does, you should take a little bit of like Loctite in there, just a drop, and move it back and forth to add a little bit of friction there so it stays shut. That's a good way. You don't want to like actually glue it open, you know, but just if yours wobbles, you want it to stay shut. So dirt rarely ever gets in there, and because dirt doesn't get in there very often, and you don't have to actually have lubrication inside the lip, dust and stuff doesn't stick to it, so it rarely ever needs cleaned. Inside you have a coil of metal that gets wound up, and it's like a little gear, and the gear will grab BBs in this chamber and push them up because it's under tension. It'll constantly want to be spinning, and as it spins it'll pull more BBs up, and then once they get to the top inside the hop-up chamber, the gear will stop spinning, and then there'll be tension there until you shoot, and then it'll spin again. That's why you want it fully wound. But anyway, if you ever would want to clean one of these, there's disassembly videos on it. Basically you unscrew this screw, push this tab and this tab at the same time and pull up, and the whole housing will come out. There's screws. You can see that you undo the screws, and then there's a little a C-clip on it on the actual gear itself. You pull that off, it'll all come out. You can take a cloth and wipe down the spring itself. It's not very hard. It's a little bit time consuming, but you clean. If you were wondering, I only tape my magazines after I've cleaned them, once I buy them. This one has been cleaned. I have one more to clean yet, and then all my mags have been cleaned. When you clean a high cap mag, it feeds flawlessly. With a sector chip I can shoot at like 17 a second, which isn't super fast, but no misfeeds to date. Let me keep moving on. Like I just said, a well-maintained high cap will, and even a stock high cap, will feed up to about 25 rounds a second. I've heard of them going higher. I've heard some people claiming they feed up to 40. I don't know if a stock high cap will actually do that high, because I don't have any guns that shoot that fast. But for just your normal player, I mean, first of all, I'm not even going to get into this debate, but I don't think that your gun should be even shooting past 25 a second. There's no need for it. But regardless, for field play. But like a quality mag that's maintained will feed up to 25 a second. That mag there has been cleaned. It misfeeds. So I can see the other side of the argument where they do misfeed, but I'm going to get to cons later. So just leave it, take it for what it is, get a decent high cap, and it's going to feed pretty well. Now, a big one that most people miss, I'm going to bring this into frame, take this one out. I use .28s. If you guys don't know that I'm a designated marksman, then you probably don't watch many of my videos, but anyway, I concentrate on long-range precision shooting for my team. I suppress guys at distances farther than most guys' guns will even shoot at all. Like, guys will be firing at me full auto and their BBs won't even get close, and I can hit them within 1 or 2 shots. I focus mainly on precision shooting at long range. In order to be able to do that, I have to wash my BBs and make sure that every BB I use is going to be precise and consistent. If there's any inconsistencies in my BBs, it throws my entire system out. Now, what I'm trying to get at is, when you put a polished BB that's been washed correctly inside this chamber and close it up, nothing's going to happen to that BB once it's inside here. The worst case is it's going to shake a little bit, but that's not going to do any damage to the BB itself. This is something that's overlooked many times on mid-caps, is the applied force to each BB. There's literally no stress on the BBs. When they're in this chamber, they're just kind of wobbling around, like just bouncing around, but all the pressure is on this gear, and all the gear does is act like an elevator or an escalator. It just, or a conveyor belt, if you will. It just kind of picks them up and throws them around. It doesn't actually squeeze the BBs or crush them or anything like that. And what that means for me is when I put a precision engineered BB in there that I've cleaned, that I know that is going to be very accurate in here, it's going to stay clean, and it's not going to chip or break or scratch. And I'm going to get to that on mid-caps. But just know that I've noticed that when I shoot my gun, polished BBs that have been washed correctly in a high cap, I get better accuracy out of it. And I'll explain why later. Alright. Let me move on to the mid-caps. Positives for them. Sorry. Not really getting this in frame too well. This is a Mag brand metal mid-cap. It came in a box of 5. They hold 190 rounds. If you couldn't tell, I taped around the mag to get it to seat a little bit better in my gun. I like it really, really firmly seated, but that's besides the point. Anyway, okay. Positives for mid-caps. They hold between 70 and 190 BBs for M4 mid-caps. And that's a benefit, especially the ones that hold like this, 190 rounds, isn't too bad. You're not giving up too much ammo capacity for performance. And it's very realistic capacity versus a high cap. Obviously, using 30 rounds in Airsoft isn't anywhere close to being fun, in my opinion, because Airsoft guns, you'll shoot 30 rounds just trying to punch through cover. So I think there's no place for real capacity in Airsoft, for competitive Airsoft playing. It's just not, but I digress again. So 70 to 190 BBs. Another benefit to the mid-caps is they are very quiet. Shaking it, and all you hear is the top little spring moving back and forth. No noise. So when you're running with these, they're not going to make any noise, which adds to guys that move fast, who like to flank, anything like that. Another benefit, they are approved for milsim. Unlike high caps, which are normally banned at military simulation things like Operation Lion Claws, mid-caps are not banned. So if you're going to be playing very, very tactical, objective-based games that are milsim, military simulation, you're going to have to use mid-caps. So that's one benefit there, is you're not going to be restricted to what fields you can play on. So, and that's the reason why I actually bought them, was because I want to be able to play those type of games. So, take it for what it is. And the next point for pros, and my final point, is mid-caps, when maintained, will feed flawlessly past 40 rounds a second. And what I mean by maintained is, one, you can't have a lot of debris and stuff in here that's been jammed down. You gotta clean it out, the spring. You gotta take this screw down, take it off, and then pull out the long spring. And then on the top there's a plunger that looks like this that pushes the BBs up. What it actually does is it pushes one BB this way, and that BB pushes the next BB that way, and they push against the sides of the, like they stagger, double stack, kind of like a pistol mag. But what you want to do is, a modification you do is you actually file the one side down so it looks like an L, and then a BB will sit here and a BB will sit here, kind of staggered, but they're actually both touching the plunger. And the benefit of that is, now it doesn't push the BB this way, it pushes both BBs straight up, if you know what I'm saying. So if you file down just a little bit, it makes it like an L, like that. If If you can kind of imagine what I'm trying to get at here, it makes it like that shape, and then one BB sits there, one BB sits there, and it pushes them up. When you do that modification, keep it clean. These will outperform high caps in terms of performance. You can get some really crazy setups on these. So, again, take it for what it's worth. Let me move on to cons. Cons for high caps. The notorious high cap rattle. When you run past a certain speed, or you lift your hips, or whatever, depending on where your mags are, it's going to make a very noticeable rattle. And that rattle is the #1 turnoff for mid-cap users. Because, obviously, when people hear that sound, they know where you are. So, that's a big con there, is you can be very loud with them if you're not careful. Another con is they must be wound fully. This is another part that needs to be addressed. Recently, I've talked to a lot of people, and they actually don't know how high caps function, or a quality high cap functions. Everybody knows you have to wind this wheel, but what most people don't know is they wind the wheel. I don't know if I have any BBs in here. Actually, I don't. Excuse me. This is embarrassing. If you don't have enough, if you don't have enough BBs actually in it, it won't. See, the BBs are at the top. This is when winding starts. Once you get the BBs to the top, now you have about, I would say about 100 winds. I use 3 fingers, and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Take notice to the sound it makes. I'm going to wind this mag fully on camera. Hear that sound? That means the mag is fully wound. And at this point, this mag will shoot, I would say 95% of the 360 rounds. I could just put this in my gun, wind it a couple more times till I hear that same clicking sound. Once it's in my gun and I start winding it again and hear that same click, it is ready to go. At that point, I can hold down the trigger and all the rounds will shoot out. Same as a flash mag. Flash mags and these mags use the same mechanics. It's just, it has to be wound up. This is a very touchy area for me, because I used to think that flash mags were mechanically different, but they're not. The only difference is there's a lever that winds it for you on a string versus you just doing that. So if you don't have the extra money for a flash mag, just buy a decent quality high cap. I mean, JG high caps do fine. I mean, they're TM clones. But I would definitely recommend the Spartan mag for a high cap. But anyway, fully wound. At this point, when you shoot, it will shoot all the rounds. And if it's maintained, or even if it's not maintained, a decent high cap will shoot all the rounds out. Just saying. But that can also be a con, because some people don't like having to wind like that. But most people don't understand you have to wind it all the way. I wind all mine up before the game starts. I'll have all 4 of my high caps completely wound up like that, and when I change mags, all I do is put in the new mag and keep shooting. So I'm hoping that anyone who's watching this video that didn't know that actually understands that's how that works. And if you don't think it works like that, then one of 2 things. Either A, your high cap is broken, or B, you have a poor quality high cap. I'm telling you, you get a decent high cap, you wind it up, fill it with BBs, all the way, wind it up and shoot. It will shoot out all the rounds. Again, I'm just putting extra emphasis on that because people get that wrong all the time. And I got it wrong for my first 3 years playing. I used to think you shoot a couple shots, and then when it stops shooting, you wind it. Well, that's wrong. And I don't know why people are so stuck on that concept. Anyway. Alright, I'm going to move on to the cons for the mid-cap. Basically, mid-caps are more expensive. Generally, mid-caps that you get that are around $60 for a box of 5 or 10 are plastic. And by plastic, I mean ABS plastic. No nylon fiber reinforced stuff. I'm talking plastic. I mean, you fall on one of those mags and it is gone. That's one thing that always bugged me. And if you're going to want a quality magazine, you're going to pay for it. It's going to cost about the same as a high cap. This is a quality magazine. This is a Mag brand metal 190 rounder. There are Mag brand plastic ones that hold less rounds. That's what most people use, is the plastic ones. Now there's also P mags, which are actually a very decent polymer. They're fantastic. I know Magpul makes P mags. And there's other metal mid-caps out there, but they're more expensive. That's the problem. That's why it's a con, is it's more expensive. Now another con is, as I said before, these must be modified in order to get maximum performance. If you want your mid-cap to feed at 40 rounds a second, you're going to have to do the modification I described, where you file off the one little corner, the second quadrant, if you will. 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants. The second quadrant, you want to file that off. You have to do a modification like that, and you have to make sure that they're, well, not oiled, but clean of dirt. And dirt, believe me, dirt gets in them. I mean, it's crazy sometimes. Another con: mid-caps you have to have a speed loader to use them. And if you lose your speed loader, or the nozzle on the speed loader breaks or something, it's not gonna be able to use it, and it's a pain, in my opinion. Rather than just cupping my hands, and dumping them in, or in the case of Elite Force BBs, you just pour them right in, and it takes like 6 seconds to fill the thing, and then you start winding. It's so much faster between games. Anyway, now the biggest con for me for mid-caps stems from my role as a designated marksman, and that is when a mag like this that holds 190, which 190, granted, is good. I mean, that's about the highest capacity you can get for an M4 for mid-cap. 190 is fantastic. I actually counted how many BBs I could jam in there. It was 172. It said 190, but I actually put them in until the BBs would not go in anymore, or I felt that the BBs were going to actually break. At that point, I took the speed loader away, and I emptied the entire mag. I let all the BBs out into a container, and I counted all the BBs, 172. I did it again, and it was 175, I think. Around there, but it was not more. But I looked at the BBs then, and a couple of them were chipped and scratched. And I noticed that when I would shoot that mag, the BBs, every now and then I would get, every maybe 5 shots, I would get a flyer. And I was wondering, what is causing this? And then I put 2 and 2 together. When you jam these magazines, these mid-caps, to their full capacity, you damage the BBs. And basically, when you have all the BBs up here being jammed down, all the BBs are in, say the BBs are my magazine. Here's the wall of the actual magazine itself, and the BBs are fed up. The BBs are staggered in a double stack pattern, and as a force is applied down, the BBs want to go out. So what happens is there's force of the spring pushing the BBs up, but as that's happening, the BBs are all jamming against the wall, and as you push that speed loader down, you're scraping the BBs across the side. And what that ends up happening is when you overfill it, you actually file off the one side of the BB. And it's very bad for accuracy. And that's the biggest con for me, is I actually noticed that 1 in 5 BBs, and that may seem like a very scary statistic, but it was true. There was, like, it was not round, there was a flat portion, and when that BB was going out 70 yards plus, it would curve off, and I would miss every time. So if you want the best performance out of your gun, I'm going to tell you what I think is the best, and I think the best is high caps, because they keep the BBs from not being scratched or filed off. Now, the only way that you could make a counter argument for this and say that mid caps are better for accuracy is if you don't fill them all the way. So basically, your only argument is you're saying, I'm going to take my mid cap and fill it to maybe 75% of capacity. Well, if your mid cap only holds 110, 75% of that is what, 80? So now you're down to 80 rounds. That's a large chunk of your ammo that you're not going to be using. So, as you guys can probably tell, I'm biased toward one. And if that isn't apparent, then you must not be listening. So, I have used both. I do enjoy being able to sprint and not make noise. But when it comes down to it, if you want high capacity, durability, low cost, and supreme accuracy, high caps are where it is. And that's just the way it is. So, hope you guys have found this informative. I sure definitely did my research on this one. And I just want you guys to know what's up and how to be the best you can be for the cheapest amount of dollars. So, this has been Silenceddeath from Airsoft Team OSMG, guys, and have a good day.